So I finally beat the original Yoshi's Island on SNES for the first time, and I wanted to talk about it. Growing up, I played Yoshi's Island DS. That was kind of the main one that I played, and I remember thinking it was alright. I haven't really gone back and played it as an adult. I don't think it's remembered as favorably. I usually hear people say that Yoshi's Island is great, and then all the other ones other than Woolly World kind of aren't amazing. Um, I haven't really touched some of the other ones, so I don't really have a lot of position to stand on. But I've tried to play Yoshi's Island before. I tried to play it a few years ago. I mean, at this point it was like 7 years ago because it was when the SNES Classic came out. So it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was. I got an SNES Classic in high school, and I tried to play it on that, and I got pretty far. I think I got to World 6. But I think I was really tuned out. I just didn't remember anything. I don't think I was really invested in it. But this year I've really been getting into collecting games again, and I finally picked up a copy of the game for my Super Nintendo at GameStop, actually. So luckily it worked. God, I hate GameStop. I might make a whole video about that. But yeah, I picked up a copy from GameStop because they started selling retro games again, and luckily it worked, and I played it on a big box CRT. And I played it all the way through. And the game's gorgeous. I mean, it's just it looks amazing. Like, I don't think I ever really processed how beautiful that game is. I knew it was pretty. I like good-looking sprite work as much as the next person. Like, most people, they like good sprite work. But this was one of the first games that I played it on a CRT and realized just how good the game looked. The art team knew what they were doing. Every sprite looks so intentionally designed to be played on a CRT. On a CRT. And I think if anyone's ever wondering why would you ever play these old games on a CRT, I think Yoshi's Island is one of the best examples you could give them. I think it just looks so much better with the scan lines. Everything looks so purposeful. But even if it's not on a CRT, every world has super detailed backgrounds. The environments look amazing, even today, and super distinct. It's like the backgrounds change as you go through the world, so it feels like you're descending into like nighttime throughout the whole game. Every sprite has so much charm and movement. The characters' designs are so unique. There's tons of different Shy Guys, but they all look different. And every animation of every sprite just looks so good. Everything's so stylized and has these big, bold outlines. Everything in the game looks so gorgeous. It's like you're playing a painting. And then playing on the CRT just helped me give even further appreciation for how great it looked. And it even does some cool visual things, like it messes around with the limited 3D effects that the Super Nintendo can do with like the rotating platforms. And it's like, it looks a little stupid by today's standards, but given that it's being played on a Super Nintendo, it's kind of cool looking. Like, it's very impressive, the way they use the backgrounds in this game. Visually, the game is just a treat. The game almost has this like edge to it, which is almost not what you'd expect going into it. You almost expect, it's called Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. You kind of go into it thinking it's like, oh, this is like a kid's game. This is for kids. It's Yoshi. Like, this is easy. There's babies everywhere. Like, this is the easy, like, normal, fun, colorful Mario game. It's not even as, like, it's not going to be, it's going to be even more bland and bubbly than the normal Mario is. But it's not. There's, like, an edge to all the outlines and everything. It's like you're playing a sophisticated piece of art, like a painting has come to life. It doesn't give off the vibe that it's for children at all. And that goes into the gameplay too, which I always heard that this was one of the best 2D platformers ever made, and yeah, it is. The levels, they're big and expansive, way more than Super Mario World, which I also replayed this year on my Super Nintendo. But yeah, the levels are gigantic. There's so much going on in every single one, and there's tons of fun gimmicks in all of them. I mean, you get the levels where you're skiing or you're flying around with the Yoshi copter. Those are the easy to note gimmicks, but even just like you have a level filled with a bunch of moving platforms, or you have all the falling chain chomps from the background, or you have the fuzzies that make you dizzy, which, oh my god, those levels, those are difficult. Just every level feels like it had a very clear vision. Like, it's not just a bunch of random geometry thrown together. Like, the level designers had a gimmick and they stuck to it for every level. Almost like Like Super Mario 3D World would be a great modern example where every level just has its own unique gimmick, and then when you're done with it, the next level has a new thing. Keeps a lot of variety, but the game is very fun in that way. And then the castles are super emblematic of that. Every single castle has fun little gimmicks, like having to collect resources from a bunch of different rooms or having different paths switching. Like every single castle is just amazing. They were definitely my favorite levels in the whole game. They were so creative. And then the boss fights too are super fun because they're just normal enemies, but then they get turned giant and then you have to figure out how to beat them. And it's really fun. But then the biggest thing about this game, which I was kind of aware of, but I think it's the biggest thing that would shock people, especially if they're going into it thinking that it's like, oh, it's for babies, it's a Yoshi game. It's hard. This game is hard. I fear a lot of people talk about like Donkey Kong Country being the more challenging 2D platformer compared to Mario. And yeah, Donkey Kong Country, all of them are definitely more challenging than Mario games. I've only played the first of the original trilogy, and it's difficult in its own right. I don't hear a ton of people talking about how difficult Yoshi's Island is. It can be really frustrating sometimes. There's enemies constantly throwing things at you. There's difficult platforming challenges while you're also trying to get the collectibles in the middle. And maybe I was just holding forward too much, but I got hit by so many things in this game. It's hard, but it's fair. There was very few times where I felt like I got punished for something that I couldn't have seen coming if I had just slowed down a little bit. There were a few things that I would run into, of course, because it's an older game. That kind of stuff is more common in old games. There were levels that I would continuously die on and just be frustrated. I'm like, this is such bullshit. But it's a very fair challenging, and I really appreciate that. It rewards patience and precision above all else. And then collectibles. I mean, let's talk collectibles. The Yoshi series, I think, is almost kind of infamous for how difficult it can be to get the collectibles, because the way it works is you have 5 flowers to collect, 20 red coins, and then you want to finish the level with 30 out of 30 life points, and you start each level with 10 life points. And there's different opportunities to get more life points, but you want to make sure not to get hit before the very end of the level because you want to finish the level with full health. And you want to get all the red coins and the flowers. And you have to get them all in one run, and that's what makes them very difficult. And I was originally thinking that it was a criticism of the game. I don't think it is. I think for me, I'm very much a collect as I go player. I like to go around and search for things and find where everything is. And it's frustrating for someone like me, because very rarely are you going to finish a Yoshi's Island level and get everything your first run through. Very rarely are you going to do it your second time through. But it is a cool challenge. Getting 100% on a level, especially if you do it your first try, does feel really amazing when you're like, okay, I explored every single inch of this level to get all the red coins and all the flowers, and I managed to get to the end of the level with all my life. It's a really unique feeling, and I don't think it would be as satisfying as it is if it saved your red coin progress, as it were. You know, so that you could go back in and just find the red coins that you missed. Having to get everything means you have to master the level, and I think that's really unique. And it's kind of compelling because I finished the game and I do want to go back and get all those collectibles. Because I'll throw that out there. I beat this game without getting all the collectibles. I didn't have the time to go back and do it as I was playing through, which means I also didn't play the bonus levels that unlock when you 100% the worlds. So I can't give any input on how good those levels are. But if it's anything like the rest of the levels, I'm sure they're great. But yeah, I really do want to go back and get the collectibles that I've missed. Maybe over time, maybe I'll take a break and come back to it later. Because once you get a hang of the game, you definitely can finish levels 100% the first time through, but you shouldn't expect it. And once I started to adjust my mindset to not expect myself to do that, I did have a lot more fun. So I wouldn't actually criticize the collectibles of the game. It's just a different setup than I'm used to in most platformers. I think another great thing about the game is the music. The music's great. But the big issue is there's not a lot of it. They reuse tracks a lot. Even by the end of the first world, you start to notice that there's like 4 main songs that will play. And oddly enough, it's a bigger criticism of the game because the music in the game is so good. I just wish there was more of it. I wish that they put in more time to make more unique tracks for every level. That said, it's a Super Nintendo game. They probably didn't have as much room to store the tracks on the cartridge. and they probably just decided that having more music tracks was not a priority for the game, and I think that's fine. It's not a giant issue with the game. It just would have been nice if there were more music tracks. But the music adds to the whole vibe of the game, and the whole vibe is immaculate. There's nothing else really like it. I see why it's been difficult for the developers to recapture what makes the first Yoshi's Island so great. Because the vibes of the first Yoshi's Island, I don't remember seeing those vibes in Yoshi's Island DS when I was younger. In all the footage I've seen of Yoshi's New Island, every vibe in that game looks awful. And then I've played some of Woolly World, and I really like that game a lot, and I want to go back and play more of it, especially now that I've beaten the original Yoshi's Island. But it definitely goes for a different vibe, a very like cuddly, wholesome vibe, which works pretty well for that game. But I can see why it's been hard to recapture the original Yoshi's Island. There's something about the way it comes together that's like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience. Among all these things, I'll add in what people have said for years. Baby Mario is really annoying in this game. I didn't remember him being annoying in Yoshi's Island DS when I was younger, so I always thought it was a little overplayed, but no. He is annoying, and it's made worse that you start to hear him cry after you've gotten hit by the 50th fucking bullshit projectile that was getting thrown at you in World 5, and then you hear him crying and you see your health points ticking down, which means you're not going to 100% the level, and it's, yeah, he's annoying. I get it now. He's very annoying. I was playing it in the living room, and my roommate would just hear me yell, "Shut the fuck up," just constantly every time Baby Mario was crying. So I get it now. I get it. But you know what else I get? The whole game. I just get it now. I was always just vaguely aware of the game and its impact and reputation and how much people loved it. But now I get it. I get what makes it special. I wouldn't consider it an all-time favorite of mine. It's not close to being my favorite 2D platformer, but I can see that it is a great 2D platformer. It's genuinely fantastic. There's no other game I've played that's like it, and I definitely recommend playing it. And if you can, I definitely recommend playing it on a CRT with original hardware. Maybe it wouldn't bring the amount of satisfaction to you as it would for me, but it did help a lot for me. Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I would gladly play more of it. And yeah, I'm gonna go hug my cats. You all have a great night.